Welcome today to Literary Dialogs with Nina Serrano, bringing you wonderful poets and writers who read from their own work and comment on it. My guest today is Naomi Quiñonez. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you, Nina. It's great to be here.
Dr. Naomi Elena Quiñonez is a poet, educator, and activist, and author of 3 collections of poetry: Hummingbird Dream, Sueño de Colibrí, The Smoking Mirror, and Exiled Moon. She offers new moon writing workshops for Bay Area women of color. She holds a PhD in American history and contributes to the scholarship of Latino, Latinas, and women of color. So to begin our conversation, Naomi, I wonder if you could tell us how you first began writing poetry and when.
I began writing poetry at a very early age. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, pretty close to the downtown area, El Sereno, Lincoln Heights. My dad was a World War II veteran. My mom was what I call a Rosita the Riveter. She worked in the defense plants during the war. And when it was over, as a result of the GI Bill, my dad was able to actually buy a house in the Los Angeles area. I grew up in a bilingual household. Both of my families are from Chihuahua. So I was at a very young age, very almost enchanted by the sounds of words that were coming up. Now, I wasn't exactly bilingual. My mom had been severely punished for speaking Spanish in the town she grew up in, El Paso, Texas. So she was very concerned that we learn English primarily, but I was raised with Spanish, basically understanding it and with it all around me, all of which contributed to the sense of engagement I had with language. So I started writing at an early age. As a matter of fact, my first poetry reading was in the 2nd grade when I was asked to read a little poem I had written for a parent community night program. And there I was, all 7 years old of me, reading a poem. And little did I know that that was going to be just pretty much part of my my makeup, my literary, my identity, my expressive makeup. So I was always writing poems for these special occasions in the family. One time I went to make a copy of one of my Mother's Day poems in the local copy machine area while I was in high school. And I inadvertently left the poem inside the machine. And about an hour later, I got a call from the owner of the store saying that people would like to have copies of this poem that for their Mother's Day. And I think it was then I said, sure, yeah, go ahead. And I think it was then and I realized the power of the word and how people responded to it. I also came up in the 60s. I was a middle school, high school student during the Chicano movement, which impacted me profoundly. So here I am in the 60s with all the social movement, unrest, with all of, the Chicano movement, the Black Power movement. I come from a family of immigrants, so I wasn't quite sure where I stood on a lot of the issues. It was a time for exploring and figuring out who I was and where I was. Vietnam was very prominent at that time. Many of my friends had pretty much stopped going to school so that they could join the military during the Vietnam War. And it was during that time that the walkouts happened. I did not walk out, but my school walked out. And this was probably about 1968. So I was writing furiously about anything that would help me understand what was going on at that time, and continued to write poetry. When I finally got to that point where I feel like I understood what was going on and I could make decisions about my own ideology as a young person growing up towards everything from war to capitalism, to democracy, all of that stuff. By then, I was college age, and I was first to go to college. And so my whole life seemed to be spinning around all of the social movement. And I began to write more and more political poetry at that time. I had my first poetry reading as a kind of mature person, 22 years old, at a program that Ricardo Sanchez was featuring in. I don't know if you remember Ricardo Sanchez.
Oh, I do. I do.
And I had a Chicano. I went to San Jose State, by the way. I left Los Angeles and went to San Jose State, and actually started to write even more there. But I was asked by my Chicano studies professor if I would do a reading. He encouraged me to get up and do a reading as part of this program with Ricardo Sanchez. And I reluctantly went. I actually didn't want to. I was just too shy. I was also a very shy person. It was very hard for me to kind of like get out of my shell. But when I did the reading, sweat pouring out of my forehead, I could hear my own knees knock as I was, because it was a very large audience at San Jose State. And I got a standing ovation. And I think from there, I just took off. That was my confirmation that poetry was my unique form of expression and that had an impact on people.
What a wonderful story. Ricardo Sanchez was very important in the Chicano movement at that time,
yes,
and very popular as a poet.
Yes.
So you probably had a very big audience as your first big poetry reading.
I sure did. And, you know, in that time, audiences were very large, period. People were hungry for the arts at that time. And so our art renaissance, you know, that I think there was someone coined the term Chicano literary renaissance, but actually it was a renaissance of all the arts, murals, music, you know, painting, poetry, all of that was just whirling around me.
And were you part of the Chicano moratorium in LA?
Yes, well, I had a chance to get there, although it was late, right when people were running the heck out of the park area and the police had dispersed everything. So I was able to get out okay, but that's another event that profoundly affected me in terms of, is this what happens when people come together and protest an injustice? That we're treated so harshly and that some of us even die. It was a real eye-opener for me.
So I wonder if we could get right to it and hear your first poem.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to share with you a poem that I wrote while early on. This is from my book, Sueño de Colibrí, Hummingbird Dream, which was published by West End Press in 1986. So that was my first collection of poetry. So I'm going to read Anima, which, as I was growing up, the Chicano movement was, of course, very much influential on me. But I was wondering, where are the women in the Chicano movement? Because as you know, Nina, we were pretty much marginalized by what was going on con los hombres, you know, and their literary expression. So this was my way of trying to get to who am I historically as a woman. Anima. The fog in my mirror slowly unveils a woman of bronze, earth, and fire. The clouding of mystery, a shrouded face, breasts that Picasso had seen and painted, an eye dark as shadows that bury the temples deep in the image of reflected haze. Still wet from waters of Azteca baptismals, an ancient face lingers at the edge of my soul. Suspended in time, I wait in suspense for the mirror to reveal a forgotten woman. Slowly the cheekbones of India take form, rough-hewn forehead, lips full and quiet. Two eyes turn inward to see what is born. Hair black as ashes of Wednesday's grim morning falls on the shoulders that carried bronze babies, infants in arms that buried fierce warriors with hands stained and bloodied that reached to the gods. Long broken fingernails that clawed at the land and trapped there forever the clay, the sand, earthen face, color of fire, burns in the memory of Coatlicue, burns into flame and singes the hair of my nostrils, the nose of a conquering Spaniard. I breathe in the smoke, it changes to incense. Cathedrals are filled with Indian perfume. New names, old gods, my eyelids are heavy. The saints on the altar all turn to jaguars. The dove Holy Spirit is Quetzalcoatl. I open my eyes, the mirror is clouded from ages of living, breathing, and dying. Eyes hollow sockets, loins dry as bone, but my soul, strong and fertile, will give birth to my children.
What a powerful poem.
Yes.
You were already a scholar by that point because you incorporate so much of Aztec culture and history.
Oh, yeah. That was part of my feeling of pride, that came out of the Chicano movement. In fact, before I went to San Jose State, I was at Cal State LA, and I joined the Ethnic Pride program. And what we did is we learned about our culture and we taught culture to little kids in the neighborhood. So I really come up as a Chicana more through the cultural rather than the political, but eventually they will both meet up.
Well, we're excited to hear that journey. Another poem, please.
All right. I will read, when I went to San Jose State, I met up with a merry band of Chicano poets, some of whom you know. Lorna Cervantes was there.
Wow.
Antonio Burciaga was
Wow.
there. Ramon Piñero, Javier Pacheco.
Yes.
So they all, Bernice Zamora. So we just became, this kind of catalyst for poetry in San Jose at that time. And this poem, Chile Jalapeno Night, kind of represents that time. It also, I had left Los Angeles and I was feeling a little homesick. So I wrote this poem as a result of the smells of the garlic that was coming from the Gilroy area. Chile Jalapeno Night, the taste of your frosted air stings my tongue, leaves my nostrils open to the spiced greenness of your aroma. You take me back to a kitchen in El Sereno where you fried nervously alongside papas and sizzling carnitas. The air exploded with your hot fragrance, spilled into every room until I became a tiny pod enveloped in your convoluted body. Chile Jalapeno, thoughts of your taste mixed with memories of familia, a salsa of laughter and music, pisto, fritos, tías, tíos, niños, loud talking and dancing. We ate you heartily and regretted it as strongly the next morning. Chile Jalapeno Night, the taste of your frosted air stings my memories, leaves this city open to my tapped happiness.
Yes, you are a cultural poet rather than a political poet.
Yes. Although,
because food is culture.
Oh, yeah. And we get a lot of inspiration from our food, don't we?
Yes, as well as health and nutrition.
Yes.
And another poem?
Well, speaking of food, I'll do a little bit. This is from my book, The Smoking Mirror. And this came out in the 90s, also published by West End Press. And this represents a time more of, in my 30s and 40s, kind of coming to my own, I think, empowerment as a woman, much more aware now of the political ideologies around me, much more aware of my own feminist identity, I must say as well. The American Book Awards took place in Miami, Florida, and I wrote this while I was there. Dolly's watch tells the time. It is too soon to remember, too late to forget. I fidgeted in your arms last night, that familiar tangle of heat and levitating syllables. My passion stuttered in my veins, liberating me from the work of getting to know you better. When your hands of salt rubbed the swell of my stomach, I felt like freshly rising bread, hot and vaporous. I stayed awake all night in fear that you would want to have me for breakfast in the morning, spread pineapple marmalade on my shoulders, wash me down with a cup of café con leche. I wanted to go under so bad. You were like ether. Perhaps we were primos in another life, kissing cousins in the land of Mu, Babylonian babes who grew up to be saboteurs in the Tower of Babel. Our reincarnation finds us in this world of Miami meanderings, where we have shared omnivisions, danced on the tops of conga drums, joined the Book of the Century Club, debated the politics of taxi cabs, searched for the lost treasures of Little Havana. We have minced words wrapped in bacon, delectable appetizers for the main entree, distance flambé, served with a side of corazón picante and a fine red wine. Is it time for dinner yet? I consult Dolly's watch. The minute hands are melting into the question of the next second. I look for answers on its tilting face, but it is either too fast to be accurate or too slow to care.
Very interesting how rhythm enters your poetry in a stronger way, as well as the mix of language of the English and Spanish, that these two things are happening together at this point.
Absolutely. And, when you use English and Spanish mix, as you get a whole other texture of rhythm. I think that really contributes to the uniqueness of our poetry as bilingual poetry for us as Latinas and Latinos in this literary world.
I want to ask you about the title of that book, Smoking Mirror.
Right.
Can you comment on the title?
Yes, it's a reference to, once again, a Nahuatl deity, Tetzcatlipoca, who is the kind of trickster deity in ancient Nahuatl culture. There's Quetzalcoatl. If you can imagine the Aztec calendar, down at the bottom, Quetzalcoatl is on one side and Tetzcatlipoca is on the other. And it represents a creation and destruction element of life. And Tetzcatlipoca, his smoke is what represents our lack of clarity about who we are. And the more we study ourselves in this mirror, the clearer we can become about who we are. Of course, there's some people who never find out who they are. They stay in the smoke. So there was something about that idea that rang true for me at the time that I wrote this book.
So our next poem?
Okay, I'm going to do this poem. It's a little long, so I'm going to go through it very quickly.
But not too quickly. We enjoy listening to you. Don't rush.
Thank you. So my first trip to Puerto Rico was characterized by what was going on in LA with the Rodney King unrest. It was, I was going to the airport at that time, LA was burning. And, as I got on the plane, I could see all of the stuff that was going on as a result of the resistance to the Rodney King was the African-American man in LA who was beaten to a pulp by the Los Angeles police, and it was all caught on tape. I think that may have been one of the first atrocities against Blacks that was caught on tape. And basically, that day that we left, the legal situation he was in declared, pretty much acquitted the police who beat him up. So everybody went, into resistance mode. And it was right at the time I was going to Puerto Rico for 6 months. This is called Mystic Mango's Role on LA Freeways. Atlantis calls. Puntitos de Dios extend from this succulent island that has become my heart. The papayas are ripe, the Creole sauce is hot, and rum is a nectar to make the orishas hold their breath as Jemaya exhales a watery sigh onto the throbbing hearts of mystic mangos. Mystic mangos dance on trees, a flock of fat orange birds in fruited flight sway to the rhythm of the Latino sphere. They are talking to me. The mangos are blurting juicy sounds. Mira la gente del Caribe. One falls to my feet and proceeds to roll down a cobblestone street. I follow in hot pursuit. Go mango, go mango. Mango stops on Calle Luna where a lush mulata stands, color de canela. The deep cinnamon of her skin glistens beneath the golden corn hues of her curly hair. Her eyes hold the green of the sea like a charm. Full lips move quickly over staccato syllables. A mantra of meaning shoots rapid fire into the salty air. In her arms, su hijo negrito, his silky hair a violet aura on the chocolate satin of his face. Indigo eyes focus on the mango rolling quickly past him. Go mango, go mango. Mango stops on Calle Sol where a mahogany man leans bare-chested against the wall of a sky blue church. The musculature of his face frames black almond eyes. Ojos taínos. Indigenous rhythms play his cheekbones like drums. He clicks staggered clave beats with his red tongue. A plentitude of plenas undulate down his back, past the long waist of his torso and settle on sculpted thighs that suck in sunlight like rich ay bonito mountains while his feet take flight over the sunset skin of a roving Puerto Rican mango. Go mango, go mango. Mango stops in Plaza de los Niños where a profusion of raza proliferate in a celebration of mestizaje. Mixed bouquet of noses, eyes, mouths, colors, textures, rhythms. Red-haired negras kiss nappy-headed blondes. Blue-eyed Africanos glisten black silk skin. Moorish nomads don Panama hats. Children the color of Caribbean sand dance to Africa's driving rhythms, while men black as Roman olives reinvent the language of Spain. Here, broad noses perch on white skin and aquiline noses on brown. High cheekbones on the short and white, flat foreheads on the tall and red. Criollo mestizaje, la raza otra vez. The past is a pirate vision of anything goes and everyone goes with it. Hips sway, ocean spray. The day of mystic mango breathes heavily on jumpy feet and pulsating ankles. Go mango, go mango. Mango rolls up San Juan sidewalks down Paseo de Princesa, past bronze vendors sculpting the rainbow snows of frosty piraguas, pouring thick jugos of sweet anjojolí. Go mango, go mango. Mango rolls to the edge of the sea and stops on an open newspaper blaring loud headlines of a wounded LA spring. Urban blossoms have exploded in burning wasteland. Mango talks to me in red, pulpy whispers. Mira la gente de Norte America. Mango grows wings and flies about me. I jump on and am lifted past miles of sea. Go mango, go mango. We circle above an infected city. Smoke hangs heavy in a feverish rage. LA is the color of an angry mango. A fiery madness spits out its own heart. In a city overflowing with global refugees, the question of race has a political answer. The markets are bristling on a Chinatown corner. Ginger root and chicken feet make a lovely lunch. Chinese women under bright-colored parasols eye silvery fish with a persistent stare. Their pompadoured sons wear baggy pants and tank tops reminiscent of Chicanos who spend street corners like so much spare change. In this city, syllables of Spanish irritate monotongues and Chinese vowels are an overwhelming insult, hence the English-only law that warns wild tongues to know their place. Go Mango, go Mango. Mango lands in Pico Union where Avario cracks under the pressure of neglect. Avata Loca escapes on the wings of her painted eyebrows, her beer-breathed father dead since birth, the bitter mother tortured since El Salvador. Televised escape hatches have stolen their minds. They watch repetitious echoes of Latino-less programs and taco commercials that equate Mexican with lazy, brown with evil, self with hate. Mango rolls down in East LA Main Street where Aztec dancers reclaim their ancient hearts. Tonatzin and Cuauhtemoc laugh in their eyes, feathers fly, drums are beating, curanderas burn offerings, copal smoke winds through the barrio and healing waves until sirens interrupt the sacred rhythms and rude helmets order the gods to disperse. Manco circles the emptiness in sacred retreat, rolls down the asphalt of a desolate street, catches the freeway on 3rd Street in Gage, and follows the scent of an impending rage. Go Mango, go Mango. Mango exits on Crenshaw and 127th where conga eyes beat rhythms and see more than drivers of cars passing invisible ghettos that glow brightly in orange, green, and yellow splashes. Women dance barefoot on the sidewalk, batiqued in the soft glow of gazing men who play jazz with their eyes and trumpet velvet flirtation into the twilight air. Desire is plucked like a smooth black bass. Africano, jazz and soul and funk. Africano, jazz and soul and funk. Children are laughing through the hot sauce on their mouths, and oh, the day is so spicy it makes noses run and eyes water. Ebony elegance graces a drive for survival, which is cause for celebration. Africano, soul and jazz and funk. Their joy invokes the goddess of strength and sojourn. Shango, the transformer, laughs with the people. She sings in their veins. She dances with them on the streets and paints the walls bright colors. She calls to them through the frightening roar of helicopters propelling through battered neighborhoods. She is a shadow of children created by searchlights hunting down young Black men. She is in the eyes of women darkened by the fist of self-hate. She is in the steel bars of jail cells that hold too many enslaved souls. She is the bruised blue skin between her people and the club that has replaced the whip. She is the raw bone of the swollen head between their spirit and their boot, the ever-present boot. She is in the outcry of the people, their carbonized words embossed in the ether of an assassinated night, urban penance, burnt offering to the inferno's smoldering daydream. She is the explosion of white heat transformed to black ash and covers a disjointed LA evening and will remain charred resistance until the pale face of reaction is darkened by Mother Earth, until the dry, cracked bed of hate is moistened by honest sweat. And on these streets, the color of blood is black. And on these streets, the color of blood is brown. The color of shame is color in a colorful world that insists on colorlessness and demands decolorization zones to be enforced in minds that have become colorless. In this place, mestizaje is forbidden fruit, a new future arrested by old fear. In this place, mestizaje anticipates red alarms and green lights and waits for the signal to go, 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 Mango, go.
What a magnificent reading of such a complex poem. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that idea of the little rolling mango capturing all this cultural mixture and history. And you expand your look at the indigenous and the spiritual to include the Puerto Rican, the Afro-Puerto Rican spirituality.
Yes.
and beautifully read.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. You know, today, this is a time that we're looking at many people are intent on what's going on with the George Floyd um, uh, process right now, legal process. So unfortunately, nothing's changed much, since these time. I mean, this is probably about maybe 15 years old as a poem now. So.
Yes, and it's been going on for such a long time. At least now
Yeah.
we have some hope. And what else do you have, or are you very exhausted from that reading? It was really splendid.
Thank you so much. I traveled for quite a bit. I pursued a doctorate. I started in Los Angeles. I got a fellowship in West Virginia, and I did visiting lectureships in Arizona and way up in Northern California and Chico. Then I was in Orange County, Southern California, before I got to San Francisco. And right now I'm living in Oakland. I once counted the number of places I've lived in all my life, 33. So I've been a bit of a gypsy and a gitana. And I see myself as I go from community to community, gathering experience, gathering metaphor, gathering poetry, connecting with communities. And I guess that's what my soul loves to do, because that's what I've been doing. About 3 years old. The Exiled Moon is my newest book. It's a self-published book. And in it, I call it the Exiled Moon because we're still at a time where I believe very much in the sacred feminine and the power of women and the sacred feminine. We have not, our voices have been silenced, they've been marginalized. And sometimes when we do hear them, it's as a reaction to something rather than a confirmation. So the moon, which represents the sacred feminine, is a very important part of my spiritual base. And so this is a Goel Shauki, who is the moon goddess in ancient Nahuatl culture. And that's whom I'm referring to. So I'd like to read a poem that kind of brings together my connection with women and the importance of women and circles. And as a matter of fact, I do belong to and facilitate new moon ceremony circles. Circles of women surround me. They brush sorrows off my shoulders like dust and sprinkle moon water on my face so that I may wake to dreams of my own designs. Our circle is a round mouth laced in red lipstick and laughter. Half moon smiles spill out, candlelight, sage smoke, copal. We speak heartbeat to each other's unique palpitations. Small vibrations gather as one. We remember the bruised, broken faces that reside in our fears. We sort out futility from power and piece together new truths from the discarded fabric of old pain. We see the greatest lies intermingled with the highest truths. We hold flesh to moonlight and hear the muffled sounds of wounds healing. We utter the sacred songs written into the hands of the four directions, a circle of small moons spinning into a smoking vortex. We invoke La Diosa, a hollow throat opens and swallows us. We are the entrails of Mother Earth. Fires lap at our heels, winds howl like restless coyotas, rivers of sweat roll down our stomachs, our feet root in a mulch of earth and bones. Disease drains out of wounded hearts and worried bodies into the loving earth. We heal, we heal, we heal. We are planted in a mixture of earth and bone and memory. We tell our stories, sing our songs, bless and cleanse and invoke. Spirit of the East, place of new beginnings, your winds brush our faces, carry our prayers to the universe, bring us wisdom on your wings. Spirit of the South, we invoke your vitality, ignite our red flame passion, fuel our desire for justice and love. Spirit of the West, slack our thirst for knowledge, refresh our spirits with cleansing waters. Spirit of the North, Nuestra Madre Tierra, we honor you. Press our foreheads to earth. Take in your energy and ground in compassion. Circles of women surround me. They brush sorrows off my shoulders like dust and sprinkle moon water on my face so that I may wake to dreams of my own designs.
Beautiful. Thank you. How can people join these circles?
You can get onto my Facebook, Naomi Quiñonez Facebook, and send me a message.
And how do you recommend people get your books?
If you Google Ex Libri and put in the name of Exiled Moon, my book will come up for purchase. Sueño del Colibrí, Hummingbird Dream, and The Smoking Mirror.
So both of those can be gotten through the online sources.
Right, yeah.
Well, this has been really wonderful. You are a very powerful feminist poet and leader.
Thank you.
I wonder if you have a closing poem.
I will end with this poem, Passages, which is in the book Maestra Piece, the book that is about the women's building that just recently came out. And this book is published in there.
The women's building in San Francisco.
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's a beautiful book on it called Maestra Piece. It is a coffee table book with paintings and statements by the artists. And we're so fortunate to have that in our Bay Area, aren't we?
Yes.
It's a gorgeous, and it reminds us all the time of the power of women, and we need that. So I will end with passages. There are passages of history written by women with pens and paint, with scars and blood and beating hearts. Wolf mother locas who bay at the moon to receive the warrior's light. Medicine mamas ready with remedies for bodies, for minds and souls. Divine feminine awakened ignites action, engenders genius, forges the infinite collaborations of culture, community, and survival. A blood sunrise is tattooed on their hearts. There is thunder in their voices and lightning in their veins. Feet march, fists rise, ideas radiate. There are sisters who bear beauty and burdens, who birth children and ideas. Wounded warriors who seek to heal and yearn to restore planetary balance and to be in alignment with earth, with moon, with sun, with self, with each other. Time slows, eyes close, palms meet, thoughts surrender to the eternity of breath that merges with the divine. La Diosa is in the house. Kuan Yin, Koel Shauki, and Oba dance to Oshun's river tempos. Shiva spins oldies, and Kali falls into the arms of Yemaya on a delicious full moon night. The goddess is present in the words of Rigoberta Menchú, in the passion of Lolita Lebron, in the blood of Audre Lorde. La Diosa is well and kicking and ready to inhabit hearts, expand minds, lift spirits, renew societies. Receive the maguey plant offering, the gift of golden corn. Drink the rising waters and calm the shaking earth. Write the passages she longs for with your joy and with your tears. Satisfy your soul, stand in the power that is woman, and be the evolution. Yay.
Magnificent, magnificent.
More recently, I have been doing fundraisers for asylum seekers and people separated. The atrocities of family separation really moved me to write this poem. It's called The New Warsaw Ghetto, which I saw the border as a kind of Warsaw Ghetto, which was the area when the Nazis were gaining power in Poland, where they just threw Jewish people into a small neighborhood and really just let them rot, let them die. The New Warsaw Ghetto is around the corner on the Texas-Mexico border, down the street on the California border, the Arizona border. publicly financed, corporately owned, government-operated enclaves of despair, the new Warsaw Ghetto metastasizes in the not-so-good old USA, in detention camps, in cages, in isolated windowless prisons driven like spikes into the southern border. In the new Warsaw Ghetto, children are torn from their families and warehoused like animals, shivering under aluminum covers or left to sleep on unforgiving streets. In the new Warsaw Ghetto, tear gas smothers and the feds demother thousands of refugee children. They are red meat for the haters, for men of mean, and for mean men who follow the fascist rules of ethnic cleansing. The refugees are brown and must be kept out, must be kept down. The country is full, he says, as if it were a hotel. No room for you, even though this is their land too, their America. They have journeyed 3,000 miles to escape their failed state of a legacy of US interventions, dirty war, torture, exploitation, and control. They have entered into a mouth of hatred, a tight sphincter of hostility. In the new Warsaw Ghetto, families disintegrate, disappear, desaparecidos. To the haters I say, careful, lest you become a refugee of a fire, a flood, a mudslide, a drought, a tsunami, an earthquake, a tornado, a drought, a hurricane, a market crash, a massacre, a mortgage, a sinkhole, an eviction, a tyrant, a war. Careful, lest you become a refugee, forced to escape collapsing ports of entries from which there is no return. Careful, lest you become a refugee, desperate and stuck on an invented line, stranded on a slim island of terror, denied, denounced, dehumanized. Careful, we are all straddling fraying edges, the uncertainty of madmen, of natural disasters, eminent domains, and rash developments of Warsaw ghettos. Soon we may all be on the move in search of a refuge from disintegrating societies and from the paralyzing devastation of human love.
What a powerful poem, especially after 4 years of Trump and the pandemic, this last year of the pandemic. It makes your poem really more necessary and insightful. So thank you again.
Thank you for giving me the place and the space to share that.